My mother-in-law
In case you get a big lineup.
Molly one.
Problem is they're still outside.
Okay, we're live.
I don't know.
Okay, council, we're, our few little glitches are fixed. Sorry about coming in a little bit late. Welcome to this evening's regular session of council for October the 27th, 2020. It is being live streamed on the Town of Greater Napanee's YouTube channel, as well as, and you can also pick up the agenda on the Town of Greater Napanee's website. If we have technical problems that we are aware of, we will perhaps call a very short recess, but this is being recorded as well so that it can be replayed. With that, I will call the meeting to order. I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented, please. Councillor Pennell, Deputy Mayor Kaiser, all in favor of that motion. Motion is carried. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, no presentations this evening. Deputations, 5.1, Wade Ennis, request to defer all fees for the development of the new build on Palace Road at Highway 2 until occupancy permit. Good evening, Wade.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
You go whenever you're ready, please.
Okay. Council, Your Honor, we're here asking tonight, my name is Wade Ennis.
Wade, if you could just make sure that you try and stay as close to the microphone as possible, please.
Okay.
It's been one of the complaints that we've had. Is
that better?
That's much better. Thank
Okay,
you
sorry
so
about
much.
that. My name is Wade Ennis. My company is Cypress Developments Incorporated. We've been working with the Greater Napanee and the city. We purchased the land on the corner of Highway 2 and Palace Road, below the, I believe you have it all in front of you, and which we've been working with Michael Nobes in the city of Napanee to do a development there. We're getting very close with our site plans and everything else, and all of our drawings. And what we've asked for is, or what we're asking for is, due to, well, I mean, with everything going on and some of the different ideas we have, with the development fees, as they're to be paid up front and they're out of pocket, we've asked for two different things. One, we've been working with a few different partners in the area, the health, the Napanee Community Health Center, one of the workers from there. And so anyway, what we were hoping for was we'd like to work with the community based on the fact that when we have this built, we plan on starting on March 1st, 2021, and finishing somewhere around June 1st or June 2022. We would like to, we were hoping instead of paying all the cash for the development fees up front, as they are not financeable or anything like that due to the way things are going these days, and the amount of business and local revenue that we're going to be bringing into the city of Napanee. We ask for, is the reason we ask for this. When we're up and running, we'll basically in roughly a year and a half, 2 years from now, we'll be bringing in, the building itself will be bringing in the city between $200,000 and $250,000 in annual tax revenue, which will be based obviously going directly on each unit out of the 70 units. And so one of our thoughts in this process was we'd like to work with, now depending on what your decision is today, we have a couple different avenues in which we would like to proceed. One of them is working with, let's say off the bat, just around numbers, 5 students graduating NDSS or in the area, as it's a big trade school. And Napanee is hard up for with jobs and stuff, and I know a lot of the tradespeople that graduate from here do go to different cities and stuff. We would like to take 5 of them through the build to work with the professionals that work with us in regards to automotive, in regards to carpentry, concrete, interior design, plumbing, electrical. And then based on this, they'd work for, this would count as their co-op and everything for their schooling. And then we would pay, as a scholarship bursary, we would pay to put them through trade school as part of the scholarship program in which we would like to introduce into the city. Based on the numbers, whether we were to do 5 scholarships or 10, that would be kind of where we're at with that. So we have a few different things which we'd like to do. I'm not going to bore everybody with everything tonight. I'll answer any questions, but basically I can send it out in an email with a bunch of different things that we were thinking. Our main thing right now is if you guys, or if council decides that this is a viable, then what we would do then is, instead of paying all the development fees right up front off the bat, we would we'd have documentation written up with lawyers stating that they would be paid whatever we decided as the council decided in the city of Napanee, as to they would be paid in full for before we were to receive our occupancy permit. So that way it would help. And I think it would help the economic growth, not just with me, but with a lot of people in the community. And you get a lot more local investors, because it makes it a lot easier, not easier, but it makes it more workable for somebody that's not a huge company out of Toronto or out of Ottawa in that respect too. So those are just a few points in which I wanted to bring up. We've been working with the, I won't go on and name them all, but like, for instance, the Napanee Golf Course, we're going to be purchasing 70 yearly memberships for that come in the condominium package in that regard to support as they're so close to our development. We're going to be working with local trades, plumbers, electricians. We're going to try and buy as locally as we possibly can, depending just on the COVID thing. But we would like as much local as we can in regards to that in any area that we could. I know that there's a lot of other things in which we plan on doing, and I believe I've spoken with Mary about a couple. But so I guess I'll leave that there. I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't confuse anybody.
No. Any questions of Wade from council? Councillor McCormack.
Thank you, Worship. It's more a question, I guess, to refresh my own information. Kind of reminds me of Heritage Park, and I guess the issues that the town ran into with that.
In regard was that?
You mean the history of Heritage Park and
Correct.
Yeah, and I guess maybe I would need my memory refreshed as well, Wade, and this is going to have to be something that I think we may have to go to. Is there a similarity? Did we defer for Heritage Park, which was a subdivision, Wade?
Okay, thank you.
Did we defer development fees and so on for the subdivision of Heritage Park? Michael, please. This is an ask, Wade, that we haven't had before, and that's why we
Yes.
need to go through things.
I
Yeah.
understand that, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Through your worship, Councillor McCormack, are you referring to, so when you say the Heritage Park subdivision, you're referring to the previous subdivision back in late 1990s?
Correct.
To my knowledge, and Mr. Callier can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the subdivision was draft approved and possibly finally approved, so the lots were in fact created and registered. However, the land, the town did not take security in the form of cash. Security was provided in the form of the land. So that's how the town the land was taken by the town as collateral, essentially. So when the developer walked away, the town took the land in that instance.
So
it's
to
a
be
slightly
blunt,
different scenario.
but nonetheless, to be blunt, it was a mess. and it went on for a long time.
As far as I'm aware.
But I get, was your original question, was there a deferment, I guess, and if it wasn't yours, Councillor McCormack, it's mine. Was there a request at that point? And I know you certainly weren't here. Mr. Cowrie, would there have been a request for a deferral of development fees of any kind when Heritage Park started, please?
As far as at the time of development, those.
You're going to have to come
Sorry.
closer to your, yeah, thank you.
As far as at the time of development, that was the very early on in the very start of my career, so I wasn't overly involved in that particular subdivision. So we're going back to the very, early 90s. That part of that subdivision was there prior to my starting with the town. It was geared towards when Goodyear was developing, when it came on. As far as the houses that were actually developed, so on the lots, I don't know that there was any fees paid on the lots themselves, but on the actual developments as they went through, as far as I know, payments were made as they built. So through that, the mess occurred in a lot because we took lots as security on that, and I'm not sure. I don't think at this point we're talking specifically about the security on the development itself, which is a separate issue to the fees. But secondly to that, it had a lot to do with the reason it went on so long was the mortgages were on all of the properties, not just on the ones that were owned by the developer. So that's where that one got delayed and messed up for a number of years to clean that up.
Yeah, thank you.
So-
Councillor McCormack, and then I'll go to you, Councillor
So
Richardson.
I guess my point is that the town is somewhat, myself anyways, gun shy because of when you go out of the norm and, you look like a nice guy and you mean well, and I'm sure that you're sincere, but things happen. And then all of a sudden, the other taxpayers are picking up the pieces. So I'm just cautious. One question before I hand it over, maybe directed to Paul. What about an irrevocable letter of credit? Would that be something that could be considered?
I think I can handle this one, and
Okay.
Mr. Dauber can jump in if need be. The current development charges bylaw that the town has in effect does provide for the deferral of payment through an agreement. So a legal agreement would be drafted up, and I would assume that the best course of action would be that we would take an irrevocable letter of credit for the amount of the development charges, whatever they are. And there would likely be a time limit associated with that agreement. So it would expire in a certain amount of time, say 36 months, if an occupancy permit isn't granted, or if the development is complete and the occupancy permit is granted, then it'd be the earlier of those dates. But I believe that could be something that we could consider, the council could consider.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Wade, I just want to, these are apartments or condos?
They will be condos.
Oh, okay. That was, for some reason, I thought they were apartments. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess, and Mike, you started to broach on it. Do we even have the legal authority to waive these, the fees on permits? And just going by what the building code says, Section 8 says that chief building official shall issue a permit referred to in subsection 1 unless any fees due have been paid. So do we have the legal authority to waive these fees in contravention of the Building Act? And I guess my concern, just the second part to that is that are we encroaching on a bit of a slippery slope that if we do it in this case, say my neighbor's building a house and he wants us to waive those fees, and then the guy down the road's building a garage and he wants to pay, like, are we, I just don't want to set up a bad precedent if we don't have to. And I think it's admirable what this gentleman is doing, and I think it's fantastic that he's interested in investing in our community. I'm a little reluctant with the slippery slope that we might be building.
Through your worship, I do see your point. It could become a slippery slope. With regards to the payment of building permit fees, those would certainly have to be paid up front. The amount in this case in relation to development charges and impost fees is a much smaller amount. We're looking at from an estimate Based on the number of units, I would assume the building permit fees would be in the range of $60,000. Development charges would be $200,000 plus, and impost fees as well, $200,000 plus. So I believe those would be the fees that are being requested to be deferred.
Okay, now, I did see, if you're finished, Councillor Richardson, I did see that Mr. Ennis wanted to answer to something too. So Wade, please step in and make your statement.
No, yeah, I was just wanting to respond to the councillor. In regards to that, I mean, Michael basically had roughly the same answer I did. His is probably clear. But what I guess my proposal is, we're not asking for anything to be waived. All we're asking for is basically, because what we're doing is we're partnering with the city of Napanee, and I understand that, and it's next to Gibbert's. It's one of the biggest, you know, developments that's going to has been going on, and I understand the slippery slope, and I do get that, and I do understand what's happened in the past, and I mean, you obviously don't want to, you know, repeat mistakes, but in this. And Michael can correct me if I'm wrong, but the only way for us to actually make a cent before on anything is to have our occupancy permit. We're not allowed to receive any funds legally from any of the people that are buying it. Their deposits and everything now in condominium complex situations, they're held in trust until we have our occupancy permit. So if we're completely done and everything's beautiful and the lights are on, if we don't have our occupancy permit, nobody can even stay a night in there unless, and so in that respect, we would sign a legal document stating that that the building would be completely full. We would pay all fees in 100% full, and then get our occupancy permit. So it's going to be in our best, the quickest we can get our occupancy permit is in the best interest to us as an investor and the city and the purchasers of our properties. So in that regard, I do understand so we will be paying the building fees, which you would normally pay on a residential home, which would have to be paid before occupancy in any case, I believe, Michael. But the development fees and everything are separate from that in that regard. So I'm kind of reiterating what Michael said, but I was just kind of.
Okay, no, that's good. Councillor Richardson?
Thank you, Worship. And actually, you sparked this thought. I was under the understanding they were rental apartments as well, but I guess they're condos. Do we have a number as to how many of the condos are sold, or are you able to provide that information?
Yes, I can supply anything. I'm not sure what I mean. We're building. There's going to be in total. Around summary of it we'll be doing 70 units. There's 2 3-bedrooms, 10 1-bedrooms, and 57 2-bedrooms. They're going to be anyway. So I don't know what you'd like, but I can give a rough overall view of what we're doing if that's what you'd like to hear, or I'm not sure how much time you'd like me to spend.
Well, no, and I'm going to make a recommendation here, because I think that we're all getting some information that comes out, and I actually had made, when Wade had spoken to me about this quite some time ago, and I just said, well, that's a decision that needs to come before council, obviously, but I'm not sure what the precedent is, and I'm not sure what it has to be, and I give Wade full credit for coming forward to, be completely transparent, to ask with this, but I think we need more information. So if this is time sensitive, government, as you well know, does not move very quickly.
No.
But we need to have, I think that between, if I might suggest this, Michael, through Michael, through Paul, through our CAO, anyone else that should be involved, for precedents, legalities, agreements, and then put that all before council with some choices. And one of them might be no. But at least then we have looked at everything that we can to make sure that we're going to be safe, and nobody can guarantee that, but at least you would get an answer. Councillor Pennell?
Thank you, Worship. Wade, you threw around a couple of dates here. You said that you'd be starting March of 2021. and then ending in June of 2022.
Yes, that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for it to be an 18-month build.
So you're looking at an occupancy permit of June 2022.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So in just to relay off that question, so, and Your Honor, the basically what we're asking for is, I guess if we were to make it cut and dry, it's pretty simple. If we were to, we're willing to sign the property as the collateral for that. We're willing to sign any legal document through our lawyers stating that it will be paid in full, all fees up to date, and our taxes and everything up to date before occupancy permit is, before Michael or the building inspector gives us any sort of permits to let people move in, our fire permits, everything requested in that. And then on that date, then once it was up and running within 30 days, you'd release or whatever, however the lawyers did it. And once they're all paid in full, that condition will be released. And then, because we can't transfer anything to it, so in that essence, we would essentially, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said before, like we're all in business together. So this will help move it along quicker, and it'll help. And I feel it'll be very beneficial for the city of Napanee as well, because, and it is a new precedent, I understand that, and I know that we're, the first guy through the door gets the bloodiest, but I feel that it will make, I think it'll look really good on Napanee in one sense that, they're working really well and with, local developers too, for future developers.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but we have a whole lot of other, and please, I say this very respectfully, this is taxpayers' money that we're deferring.
Yeah.
We have, as Councillor McCormack has pointed out, even though it's a long time ago, and rules were different, the economy was different, bad taste left from something. So with council's permission, I think we need more facts, more figures, more information, and I would entertain a motion to bring it back to the next with anything that, to answer the questions that council has had here tonight. I mean, if that's what you want to do, this could be a whole new way of doing business. I'm not going to say that I agree with it, because like anything else, taxes or anything else, we want to see it up front. But someone has come forth with a proposal. Let's take a look at it, if that's council's wishes. Councillor McCormack, you're willing to make that, so we would get facts, figures, dollars, security. What else do we need? Sorry, go ahead,
Some
John.
history on your company, previous builds,
Sure.
So
no.
you basically, sorry, I don't mean to cut in, but
No.
basically the same sort of thing that we would supply to the bank.
Absolutely, positively.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
that's not a
Wade,
problem at
yeah,
all.
Okay. But with the facts and figures of the build itself and things. I need a seconder before we go into anything else. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Kaiser. Susan, you've got what you need? Go, Deputy Mayor Kaiser?
I just wanted to suggest to include in that additional information, obviously the building permit would have to be paid up front, but after that, we've got the development charges and impost fees. So you mentioned options. I think that's something I'd like to hear as part of the staff discussion and precedent setting, that if it's a staged approach or if there's an appropriate timeline when certain things should be met, maybe the impost fees don't have to be done completely up front, but maybe they have to be done well before the occupancy permit. And you know what I mean? Especially if the municipality is going to be on the hook for any costs or expenses incurred by connections or whatever, that certain things come in at the appropriate timeline, not just prior to.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the taxpayer on the hook for any,
No.
with all due respect. So
Yeah.
I just ask for that to be included
Yeah.
in the information.
None of us do. You kind of caught me between a rock and a hard place, Wade, because we've got a motion on the floor, which I kind of need to take a vote on unless you've, I don't know what input that would be. Council, do you want Mr. Ennis to be able to make a further statement before you vote, or would you like to go ahead with the vote and then the statement?
I think one more statement.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Ennis.
I was just saying, I was just thinking in response to your comment, if we were to work out, if we were to have Michael give us the numbers on the exact costs, other than the building permit, the development fees and all that, et cetera, and we were to say, okay, well, we're gonna do this on an 18-month term, and we divide it by 18 months, and prepaid the last month or something like that, so that the last payment would come in the month before our occupancy was needed, then that way we could spread it out over 18 months. I could build it into my construction finance, and it'd make it a lot easier on both ends, and that way you guys would have security the whole way along, as we would, same as we get the draws from the bank.
Well, let's leave that as an option then, if that's good with council. We haven't voted on it. Do I need to amend the motion, Susan? No? You'll add that to the motion? We haven't voted on it yet? That's a good suggestion, Wade, thank you. I'm going to call the question unless there's anything more to be said. All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thanks very much, Wade.
Thank you, guys.
Certainly, somebody will be in touch because we'll need a little information. Thanks
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
Motion to note and receive Mr. Ennis's deputation. Or did you put that in with, oh, she put it in, not she, yeah, it's in with the other. Susan's way ahead of us. I need a motion, council resolution to accept additional deputations with no notice if required. Moved by Councillor Pennell, Deputy Mayor Kaiser. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Do we have anybody back there that wants to come forward? No, we don't.
That was TV.
Okay, on to 7.1. Oh, sorry, 6.1, regular session of council. The motion to adopt is presented, please, and thank you.
Motion to receive the minutes. Approve.
Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor McCormack. All in favor of that motion. Motion is carried. 7.1, correspondence for information, items dated October the 27th. You have a recommendation to receive before you. Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Comments or questions? All in favor of that motion. Motion is carried. Thank you. Correspondence for action. Napanee Cab, request to increase taxi rates and fares. You have a recommendation before you, but I'm sure there'll be some discussion on it. The council received for information the correspondence from Napanee Cab dated October the 15th requesting the increase, and the council provide direction regarding the request. Council's wishes. You have all the fees and schedules ahead of you, before you? Yeah.
Motion to receive and adopt or approve or whatever. Accept.
We have a motion to receive and adopt as presented. Okay, Susan?
So there would have to be public notice, so there would be a bylaw amendment to come back to council.
Okay. And that notice would go in the usual spots, and how long would that be? 30 days?
Minimum of 2 weeks.
Okay, all right, thank you. So that'll come back either to the next council meeting or the one after that. Have we voted on that? Oh, I have a moved by Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor Norrie. Is there no further comments or questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. 7.2.2, Ministry of Finance, Parliamentary Assistant, acknowledging his meeting with the town and the town of Smith Falls during the 2020 AMO virtual conference regarding property tax assessment of licensed cannabis production facilities. You do have a motion before you to receive the information. Moved by Councillor McCormack, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kaiser. Comments or questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Unfinished business. Committee reports. Municipal Heritage Committee, February the 20th. You have a recommendation that the council receive and adopt the minutes of the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting dated February the 20th, 2020. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kaiser. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Did I see that you'd had another meeting, Councillor Richardson, of the Heritage Committee?
Yeah, we just had one just a couple of days ago. Yeah,
Perfect.
we did.
Yeah,
so.
nice to see them get up and going.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, I think, in the present environment, but I believe that there is a meeting coming up in the very near future in November with respect to all the committees.
Yes, yeah,
And we do have 2 representatives from the Heritage Committee that are going to attend that meeting.
good.
And so we're going to wait and see what the fallout from that is, I think, before we get into any heavy-duty decisions. So.
Yeah, I think committees all across the country are having the same thing, so it's nice to see that, that you're meeting again. I have a mover and a seconder. Have we voted on it? Oh, yes, we have. Okay. 9.2, Municipal Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. March the 3rd, a recommendation to adopt. Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor Pennell. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried, and
Could I offer some
certainly-
comments on that?
yeah.
So we also met recently. I think we were the first committee to meet post-COVID, or whatever you want to say. Pretty good spirits, pretty good ideas. They're really questioning the mission and vision going forward of our role and how we can fit and support arts of all forms in the community and around. And I actually think it's going to be kind of an interesting spin of energy coming out of it. So, and again, we do have a couple reps that are going to be attending the November meeting of committees. So that'll be interesting too.
Good, thank you. No, nice to see that one up, and I was able to attend it. I wanted to make it to yours, but hard to be 3 places at once. All in favor of that motion? And motion is carried. And I won't let you take it away from Councillor Norrie, who's, of course, the Napanee BIA is.
Wow.
Yeah, so you've been the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth to meet during COVID. So we need to receive for information and approve the 2019 Downtown Greater Napanee BIA Annual Report. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Richardson. You want to comment on anything there, Councillor Norrie?
Just a quick update. We're continuing to have in-person meetings. We're using different premises downtown. Elena's once, the Loaf and Ale. The next one is on the 4th of November upstairs at the Legion. All these places are donating their area.
Good.
It's a budget meeting, and Mr. Dalbert's gratefully said he'll attend. But all kidding aside, yeah, they're getting together and getting together in person, and a lot's happening working around it. So
Good, good.
thank you for your support.
Yeah, downtown looks great. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried, thank you. Staff reports, CAO service area updates. Comments or questions of Mr. Calery? Or of any staff that would be here? Nothing?
No, but I like the new format.
Yeah, I do too. So seeing nothing, you have, we need a motion to receive for information the service area updates. Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor Pennell. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. 10.2, CAO review of property sales process, award of contract. We have a recommendation, but I know there's going to be a lot of discussion on this first, that council receive for information, and further that council accepts. But I think that maybe we need to have Mr. Calery speak to this, and then council will be able to ask questions, please.
Following council's resolution, an RFP was drafted based on the information that council had provided as far as what they felt were the
Yeah, closer, sorry.
what they felt were the important points of the RFP. Working with Mr. McDonald, he put together the RFP for circulation, and we received back 3 different bids based on that, and they were evaluated with the addition of Mr. Dauber to that group. And so on the review, certainly there were a number of important considerations that were taken in, and I think the report covers those. Certainly there was a variation in fees, and that was a large part of it, but so was the timing. And the firm of KPMG, as indicated in the report, had the lowest overall fee and the tightest timeline to do the review and the work. Also, considerations were taken in, as far as their expertise, the team, the amount of staff involvement that would be required in the review, as far as how much staff time would be involved, and certainly the recommendation on all of those fronts was a fairly clear indication of the three proposals that KPMG was the most appropriate based on the request that council wanted to cover off.
Questions or comments regarding the proposal and the information in front of you, Council? Councillor Richardson?
Thank you, Worship. By having read through the information that we have, I have to admit that the price that KPMG has come in with is, in my world, I think is quite respectable. I was expecting maybe the worst, and I apologize for that, but I thought those numbers were going to be a lot higher than they are. KPMG, I believe, is a little bit of research I was able to do with on the internet, is a very reputable company that reaches not just in Ontario but everywhere. So from what I can see within the report, that I think that they will be able to fill what we're looking for in the resolution. And let's face it, I like the price too. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I think it's very reasonable, quite honest with you, for the amount of information that they're probably going to pull up and the amount of information that they are going to have to look at. I think it's fairly reasonable.
Councillor McCormack?
Your Worship, 10 properties is going to take us back how far roughly?
Well, with 10 properties, they're going to go through back up to the possibility of 10 years. I would assume that going back 7 years is probably where the fullest amount of records, just by our records retention bylaw, but they will go back through to the 10 years based on the files.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Richardson?
Sorry, Councillor McCormick just tweaked on something that it's most definitely the 10 properties is going to take us into the previous council, I suspect, for sure. So,
absolutely.
Which is, I think, what we're looking for anyways, but it's definite beyond all realm of council, I think, so.
Councillor Pennell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I'm going to go the other way and say that I thought that was a little pricey, but then when you look at the other two bids as well, I guess that's what it is. And I agree that KPMG is a reputable company. We had dealings with them before. We made a resolution. There was a lot of talk about this in the community. We made a resolution, and we need to stick with it and go forward, even though that the price is over $30,000. To pull out now or to change our mind just because of the price would not reflect very well. So when it comes to the vote, I'm going to be voting for it.
Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to check, they have KPMG quoted a fixed fee overlooking 10 properties. Have they quoted a cost plus to be added to that if they need to go over 10 properties? Or do we want to just, if we accept this, cap them at 10 properties?
Mr. Cowrie?
At this point in time, their fee is for the 10 property max. There is not an additional fee in this. The intention is that they were going to come back with phase one, which was to review the property files and come back and make recommendations on which properties made sense to proceed into further levels. And so it is possible that when they come back, they could say 5 properties would be what we should review, and that's why some companies have said, based on a number of properties, if there was additional properties, they would charge extra. Other companies said, just based on the amount of work to go in and review it, we'll give you a fixed fee to do that. So that would be up to 10. If council wanted to go additional to that, we would have to have conversations with KPMG based on their presentation of phase one. But certainly the intention is that they would do phase one first, do the review, and then council would determine, based on the phase one review, how many properties, based on KPMG's recommendation, to pursue in detail. So council could pick up to 10 in this case, and if that was the case, then they would do that work in phase two and come back with a final management report in phase three. So that was the staging of the RFP in the way that was requested. And it was done that way just so simply council had some control partway through, that there wasn't a large amount of work that just kept going if council didn't feel it was appropriate. So council could basically stage, determine the work, and then make sure that they were happy with what had been picked out before any details get reviewed.
Deputy Mayor Kaiser.
Well, picking up on that point, is there a minimum that we would set as the number of property? I wouldn't want to see them come back and say, based on our review, we're going to look at 3 and we're stuck with the same dollar value that would have done 10. Is there a minimum number of properties they will review, or is it just simply their intent to probably target 10?
No, I think the fixed fee, I mean, if you look at their price for the full fixed fee compared to the other companies just for the phase one review to come in and determine it. So they've basically covered off all 3 phases in what the other companies are charging just to come in and do the initial work. So you're pretty well covered on that. I think the rationale when we went in this is we didn't know what the upset price would be, and we wanted to make sure council had full control over the budget. So if some company came in and did a review and they came back and said, we want to do 9 properties, council would have the ability to say, based on that, that's good, we're happy with the 9, proceed with the 9, but we'd know the budget for that. In this case, they'll do up to 10. So if they come back with a recommendation that said anywhere from 1 to 10, that we believe that there's a lot more details in here to review and actually go back through, that's all covered off. They may come back, it is potentially possible, they might come back and say there is 3 that we need to really delve into, but that money's been included, and council may say, well, was there a 4th or a 5th? But they may say, based on what we've seen, there's only 3 that really meet the stand out as hitting a criteria that's kind of out of the ordinary type thing. So I think you're still going to get the phase one report. You're still going to have the opportunity to speak to them at that point before any further work gets done, to make sure you're happy that both council and the firm are on the same page as far as the further part of the review. So there is a good check-in point at the end of phase one.
Further questions?
I'll make the motion. Staff rec.
Okay, I'm going to have a little say here first.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm going to ask a few questions first. So my understanding is they will be looking at, sorry, I'm not going to say it's my understanding because that usually gets me in trouble. Will this involve tax arrears properties that are sold in the normal manner through a tax sale? Will their investigation will that be part of their investigation? Can it be part of their investigation?
The way the RFP was established, it was for the sale of any surplus lands.
Okay,
So if it's a tax sale process where it wasn't successful,
Yeah.
and we assumed ownership of the land at an unsuccessful tax sale, they would be in that. If it's an active tax sale process, or a process where there was a tax sale and sold through the tax sale process, they were never vested in the town's name, so they would not necessarily be in that range within the files in that cabinet.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure that everybody's shooting with the same gun. So they will bring back to phase one. They will look at, obviously, and some of these questions are going to be obvious. Will they look at our disposition of sale of land bylaw?
Yes.
And have there been any updates since it was first done, and they would be apprised of that as well, I'm sure?
Yes.
Okay, and they would come back and ask for advice on an interpretation for that as well, I would assume.
Given the resources within the firm and the people that they've assigned to this, I would think that they would have a lot of knowledge
Yep.
in-house to be able to reference the interpretations. It is possible they could ask for an interpretation. Going back through the files, I would based on an assumption of the way they'd want to review it, is they would want to look at the date on the file that they were looking at, if it was a file they picked out to move into the second phase, and they would want to take a look at the bylaw that applied at that time, so that it was, they were considering what the rules were at the time of that property sale and what the rules are, or what the rules were moving forward in phase 2 and 3, with the 3 being the management letter, is really where at the end council gets recommendations on the past practices and the best practices moving forward, which I think is what council was looking for, to provide some reference points for a revised bylaw that staff are working on, that they have on hold until this process is complete.
And you answered my last question. Thank you very much. Is that was it? They will come forth with a recommendation. They will break down what has been done, which some of it might be wrong, some of it might be right, but it will all be out there in plain English. And then recommendations for going forward for a checklist as to how to treat. Are we looking for that? Will they come forth with a recommendation that we can either accept or not accept for future sales and how they would go? I'm not saying whether it's through real estate, whether it's through anything like that, but the reporting of these sales, recording and reporting of these sales.
Yeah, as part of their final phase of this, moving through the process, the first is the identification of the land that they believe needs to be further investigated. The second is looking at our policies. Within that, then, there's a comparison of other policies and other best practices in other areas. And then that allows them, in the management letter, to give council recommendations on potential improvements or potential best practices that we may want to consider moving forward. And from those, council could then review those and either provide further direction to staff on ones that they felt were important for us to implement in a bylaw that staff have been on hold, but knows that they have to prepare and bring back to this council. So hopefully it would provide good insight. And I'm assuming that at the point in time where those recommendations come forward, the council may have some specific questions based on those recommendations for the firm for them to provide further details at that point in time.
And would this all be done in open session?
Yes. In fact, that was one of the different treatments in the different packages. Some of them felt that they would be doing a closed session presentation. In this case, we believe that the presentations would be an open session.
Thank you. Councillor McCormack.
Just curious, Ray, have they given you an approximate timeline?
Yes, the timeline that KPMG is aiming for is the end of 2020 to have the review complete.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Councillor Richardson.
Sorry, Your Worship, I'm going to state the extremely very obvious here, that the properties that they are going to look at will include 32 Oak Road.
37. Yeah.
Sorry,
32, you're right,
32
sorry, I'm
Oak
sorry.
Road, the Heritage Park property, as well as the old library. Is it safe to assume that those 3 properties will be included in the 10 that they're going to do?
As far as the sale goes, they would all be, yes, they'd be in the cabinet that they're going to review all of those
Yeah.
properties. in
No,
their
yeah,
areas.
and I apologize for asking that question.
No,
I just
don't
want to
apologize.
very clear that those 3 properties will be 3 of the 10 that they are going to review.
Yeah, okay, I want to be ultimately clear on this. They will be in the original Phase 1 properties
Yes.
that they will look at.
Yes.
Whether or not they propose to move those into Phase 2 and 3 will be a discussion at that point in time at the end of Phase 1, based on what they see in those files.
Okay, but
Yes.
those 3 properties will be part of the initial
Review.
review.
Yeah,
Thank
review
you.
properties, yes.
Okay, thank you. You have a recommendation before you, okay.
Can I second?
We've got it for a
Deputy
second, yeah, seconded by Councillor McCormack. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Financial services, tax sale property update. Mr. Dauber.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This is a follow-up to the request back in July to move forward with tax sale processes in order to get rid of the overdue tax properties. And when I say get rid of, I mean to get them off of that roll. And it's been very successful in the first month of implementation. As the report states, September 21st, the moratorium on tax sale was lifted. Staff got right into it, and since then we've reduced 40 properties out of tax sale. Obviously, without a tax sale, those people have settled up their accounts. Many of them, a few of them were through sale, a few of them were through estate, but many of them, when push came to shove, and that letter came, the official letter from our third-party provider, which is a company called Real Tax, and what they do is the first step is to send out something called farm debt notification. Whether somebody who's in approaching the point of tax sale lives in the corner of Bay and Bloor in Toronto, they'll still have a farm debt notice go out in case of they own farmland somewhere in the province. So those notices have gone out. So when at that point, when push comes to shove, there was a number of property owners that paid. Staff has been working hard to keep up the regular duties as well as the onerous task of registering those properties. But in that month, we recovered $242,000 of outstanding taxes and $54,000 of outstanding penalties and interest. Part of those related taxes were amounts that we've already submitted to the county and to the school boards previously. However, the related penalty and interest all stays within the municipality. Our tax clerk, Jill Drew, has been working very hard to make this happen. And the goal is to get the last 74 that are in 3 years arrears done by the end of the year. And then to start into the 2-year outstanding after that in January, and we feel that's a realistic goal in order to keep going forward. I will bring updates. Would it be council's wishes to put that as part of the service area update on a monthly basis, or would a more formal quarterly update on the tax sale suffice?
Council's wishes. Yeah, certainly, Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Worship. I mean, if the information that's in this report is in the service area update, I'm good with that. I like being able to see real numbers. I mean, this is very straightforward, so I have no problem in the service area update if we get the straightforward numbers.
Yeah, it'll appear just as that chart there.
Okay. Well, it's certainly a good start. I was quite shocked at the amount that, and you got to pay to reap the benefits of it. But when I started signing all those checks for real tax, because they're each done individually, which I can't believe they won't take one check. But my hand was sore by the time it was done. So, you know, good job. We certainly have accomplished in a really tough time. Some people that just had to be pushed to the wall in a way that you don't like to have to do, but they put themselves there. Paul, from the ones that we have collected outright, were there others that have made payment arrangements to try and bring them up as well? Is there?
Yes, since the time this report was written, we signed our first payment arrangement. I've included a copy of what that is and what that looks like and the terms that are in it within the package. We look at a payment frequency, monthly, biweekly. We give a little bit of flexibility as far as the payment schedule goes, but Jill has basically a spreadsheet that she input some of the information from the tax schedule that will define the outstanding principal. It'll define the penalty and interest balance, and it'll add on the tax bills going forward. And the idea is that they keep current with their taxes and have the outstanding balance paid off within 2 years. Now, in the water department, we have something similar, but it's usually paid off in 1 year. but there's usually not such large amounts. So as long as the arrangement pays it off within the 2 years while keeping current, then we're able to sign that. They sign an agreement stating that if they miss a payment without communication with town staff in order to work out where it's going to be paid up, sometimes people just ask for it to be deferred for a day or two, sometimes up to a week. We don't mind that, but as soon as they miss a payment without authorization, then it goes straight to tax sale without notification. They're made aware of that verbally once they're signing it, and then they make that agreement, and if they're paying by check, then we ask for a year's worth of checks up front. The one that we just recently signed was $1,200 a month payment, which will catch them up in 2 years and keep them current, and they gave us a year's worth of post-dated checks. So we feel reasonably assured that we will end up clearing that account up in the 2-year period.
Excellent, thank you. Deputy Mayor Kaiser?
Yeah, I had one comment, one question, Your Worship.
Certainly.
Sorry, the first comment, just drawing attention to the fact that it was the province that lifted the moratorium on September 21st. Our hands were tied up to that point. So
That's
very,
correct.
very pleased with the results so far and the activities, but that leads to my question. You made the comment that staff have worked hard while continuing their regular duties. How sustainable is that? And do you feel that we're moving through a process that this will diminish over time and be more sustainable as time goes forward, that we won't have such a backlog?
Yeah, absolutely. Our predictions are to take care of the original 212 properties, 148 properties that were in second year's arrears. We took a fairly aggressive approach to move forward. We had a plan A and a plan B backup to approach it, and so far plan A has been working on its own. We haven't had to divert to plan B. Once we hit January 1st, those second years, and any of those properties that are still in arrears will then enter the third year. And then properties that are in the first year will enter the second. So there will be more, but we're expecting to then catch up by about the end of Q2 to a point where it becomes something that's a little bit more sustainable. We'll never get rid of, like every other municipality, people who are behind on their taxes. However, the province has given us the teeth to be able to, at one point, we couldn't touch them or couldn't demand payment until they hit the third year. The province recognized that there was a problem, so they changed the OREG for tax sale and made it 2 years so that we had a little bit more teeth going forward. So now we do have that teeth, but up to that point, we can't proceed with tax sale until they hit that second year. So we will always be there. There will always be those properties. But I think once we get over this first hump and get these registered and moving forward, of which so far we're getting quite a bit of compliance as far as payment goes, then we can see it settling down and becoming something that's just a little more regular, more of like a quarterly process.
Good. Okay. Any further questions or comments? If not, I need a motion to receive the information. Thanks very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor McCormack, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Infrastructure services. This will be Millhouse Yards. Do we need to bring our planner in from the back room? Oh, okay. Thank you. Michael, are you at the mic for this? Yep, thank you. Michael at the mic? Pardon?
Your Worship, I just wanted to bring up a couple points for clarification. Some very recent items were brought to light that were just slightly incorrect in the planning report.
Okay.
The bylaws themselves that are before council are not proposed to be changed. There was just an incorrect reference made on page 11 of the planning report. It stated that the proposed maximum building height for the apartment blocks was to be 10 meters, which is less than that is permitted in the R6 zone as of right. That was a carryover from a previous job by the town's planning consultants, so they have amended their report and it's been provided to council. I just wanted to bring that to council's attention. The bylaws are not going to change with respect to that maximum building height. And the zoning bylaw amendment Schedule A just made reference to a previous site exception zone. It made reference to R6-14. It should have read R6-15. So just a very minor change there as well.
Okay. All right, any questions directed toward Michael on the report that was provided to us for this? Councillor Pennell?
Thank you, through your worship. Michael, I've been getting some phone calls from concerned residents of the density of the draft plan. And I was just reading while you were speaking that this design, this plan does currently fit our density regulations, correct?
This is, the proposal through the official plan amendment is to result in an increase in density. So there will be an increase from the low density residential to medium density residential zone to accommodate the number of units, being the row dwelling houses, the semi-detached and the single detached. I can let Mr. Leclerc from FOTEN expand a little further on that if you wish, but that is the proposal. The change for the apartment blocks is to go to a high-density residential zone in a site-specific policy area, solely due to the size of the lots proposed for those apartments. So the number of units that are contemplated and the size of the area of the lots, it would result in a higher density on those lots in particular, and that's what the official plan amendment is proposed to recognize.
Well, I have you on that.
Just one sec, please, Councillor Pennell. Are they planning, are they not able to hear us in there? There seems to be some shuffling, so I'm not sure that they're able to hear us for some reason. You're okay? You can? Okay, sorry.
It's just the fridge has come on, so it's drowning out the speaker.
Can we unplug the fridge?
Should our audio guy go back? Can he adjust the volume back there?
Can we get the audio adjusted in the deputation/kitchen, please?
Test, test.
Okay, we've got people on their way to try and fix this. I just unplugged the fridge. Because they need to be able to hear. You still want to break at 8:30? Yeah.
Test, test. Good.
Thank you. Okay, Michael.
Thank you. So just keeping with this theme, and maybe you'll want the planners to ask it, but the apartments we seem to be okay with. It's just more the row houses. It seems like when it's compared up against what is existing with two plots of land, there seems to be three 3 row houses, which is 20 some odd feet wide. I understand that, it's typical size for a row house, but I'm just wondering, does that fit the zoning, or do we have to adjust the zoning on that?
We would be proposing to change, the proposal is to change the zoning to permit this. So that we would be changing the official plan designations to then allow the zoning changes. So the official plan designation would set the medium density residential, which limits the number of units per net hectare. With that change coming into effect, the proposed zoning amendment to identify the lot frontage, lot area, et cetera, those provisions, that is what the zoning change is proposed to recognize is that.
Just one follow-up.
Certainly.
What happens if we don't?
If
we don't approve the change, the zoning change?
then that would be a denial by council, and the applicant could then could appeal to LPAT to make a final decision. There would likely be a hearing involved associated with that.
Okay, so it would be a denial, wouldn't be a change of the amount of units? It would just...
If council wished to deny and propose a reduction in unit count, then that would have to go back to the applicant to see if they wish to revise the applications to reflect council's wishes, or they would have the option to appeal.
Okay, great, thank you.
Further comments or questions, either to Michael or the planners who are here? Deputy Mayor Kaiser.
Just, this may seem a little odd, but it's a lot of units. When I look at the map and I look at the property count, and I think of the potential number of dwellings, the potential number of families, residents, how's our infrastructure for that? Do we have any concerns about supplying this with water and then retracting the wastewater?
From the servicing reports that were submitted by the proponent's engineer and reviewed by town engineers and utilities department, there are no concerns from a water and wastewater servicing perspective for this proposal.
Cool.
Further questions or comments? I guess my only concern, and I hesitate to try and compare one subdivision or one area to another, especially to be extremely transparent, when the whole world knows that my son did build some of these. What would the landscape look like? And I don't mean on your property, I mean on another property. What will the landscape look like as far as parking in front of these and the density? If you look at Beverly Street, where all the townhouses and Canberra's Way and all the townhouses, just so that I can visualize it, is it the same sort of density?
It is very similar in density on the eastern end of Beverly Street.
And what sort of parking will be provided? Will they be forced to, and they're not over there, will they be forced to park partially on sidewalks?
I believe I'll defer this to Mr. Leclerc from FOTEN to answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. The zoning bylaw amendment includes a provision that requires garages to be set back 6 meters from the property line. So every single house is going to have 2 parking spaces at a minimum, one inside the garage and one in the driveway. And that 6 meter setback ensures that the parking space is entirely off of the municipal property, so it wouldn't encroach into the boulevard.
And if I may continue, there's, you hate to lose grass and so on, and I'm assuming that they'll have decent backyards. And I'm just referring to the row houses, the townhouses, whatever you want to call them. Is there a way to provide an extra, even half parking spot, such as they have? And I hate to use that example, but it seems to work on Beverly Street. It seems to get the cars off the road, especially in the wintertime with our bylaw. And with all families, coming into staying maybe in the same spots, it kind of, or even having visitors. I would just like to see that they could have the room for you know, 2 cars within the driveway and certainly one in the other, but I don't know what you have to supply. I'm just putting forward a suggestion because it certainly has been a problem in some of our areas, and we all hear lots about it in the subdivisions in town. So if it can't be done, it can't, but I'd sure like to see it if it can.
Through your worship, would you like a response to that?
I sure would.
Certainly.
Thank you.
So what we can do through the final plan of subdivision review process is work with our engineer to see, and our building designer to see where on the lot the houses can be located. Now, a number of these lots are quite deep, so there is the potential to set them back a little bit further to provide a little bit more room in the driveway. Provided that we don't encroach into the rear yard setback. So I think there is that potential for some of the houses for sure.
Even if we could just look at it, because I do know that those have been the comments that I've had coming back from people.
Thank you.
Councillor Pennell, thank you.
Thank you, through your worship. I heard that there's a setback from the property line of 6 meters. I'm just hoping, or I would just like clarification, that on the side where the sidewalk's gonna be, is that would be 6 meters from the edge of the sidewalk, so therefore no cars will be straddling the sidewalk as we do have something like that here already.
Thank you, and through your worship. So that's correct with respect to the zoning and how the properties are going to be formed. So the sidewalk would be located entirely in the boulevard outside of the property limits. Now, what we can, again, one of the things that we can work with through final approval is look at this distance between the property line and those sidewalks to see if there's any more room that we can achieve and achieve sort of an additional half parking space or more separation between those 2 parking spaces on the property and the sidewalk to try and maximize the space where vehicles can park and not interfere with sidewalk traffic.
Thank you.
Just for council's consideration, what's proposed now is the draft plan of subdivision. Future phasing and final plans of subdivision and detailed engineering drawings, et cetera, would come forth for final approval. And that is where those very fine details would be determined.
Good, thanks, Michael. Any further comments or questions to either the planners or Michael while we have the opportunity? If not, you do have the recommendation before us still sits. Michael, nothing has changed with the recommendation that's before us now. So, council, you do have a fairly hefty recommendation there before you.
We're receiving the revised report.
And also to include receiving the revised report, which has come to us just before council. Council's wishes. Moved by Councillor McCormack, seconded by Councillor Pennell. Further comments or questions?
Could you read the whole thing? No, I'm just kidding.
What was the third paragraph?
All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for not throwing something at me.
Boy, that's a large motion.
It's a big file.
It is a big file. 10.5, am I at, Susan?
Yes.
10.5, infrastructure services, development services, 1831 County Road 41 zoning bylaw amendment. You have a recommendation that council receive for information on the 1831 County Road 41 zoning bylaw, and further that council approve the zoning bylaw APLZACO 2020-047 for 1841 County Road 41, subject to the conditions that are contained before you in your agenda. Yeah, first and, yeah, it's a motion yet. We're not at the bylaws yet. Moved by Councillor Pennell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kaiser. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. 10.6, infrastructure services zoning bylaw amendment. PLZACO 2020-050 West Bridge Estates. We have a recommendation before you, council, that we receive for information the planning report from Clark Consulting zoning bylaw amendment, Westbridge Estates subdivision report dated October the 19th, 2020, and further that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment subject to the conditions before you. Council's wishes, moved by Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor Norrie. Comments or questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. I'm going to take 10.7, and then at 8:30, because most of us have been at a bylaw and sitting in, or at a bylaw, at a meeting all day long in budget, and we've got staff that's been the same thing, and I'm going to give everybody a 10-minute stretch, if that sounds good, okay? So we'll go to emergency services, 10.7, fire protection survey services, tanker shuttle accreditation. Did you wish to speak to this, Deputy Chief?
Through your worship, our accreditation came up for renewal this year. It's, I'll step a little further closer. Every 5 years it comes up for its recertification, and 15 was our first year where we went through the process, and so this year was our renewal for that process. I'm very proud of our department and the way they stepped forward, and we easily passed through the recertification of the 200 gallons per minute for 2 hours for residential, and the 400 gallon requirement for commercial also for it was a good job done by our personnel, and with the assistance of our mutual aid partners of Stone Mills and Loyalist Township for their assistance of tankers from them also. So basically this gives us, for our rural areas, the process basically is like a fire hydrant in their community. If they live within, for residential, they live within 8 kilometers of one of our fire halls, basically it's like the fire hydrant outside the door of their house, like urban core. For commercial, it's like 5 kilometers. They live within 5 kilometers of one of our fire halls of their business, they should be getting insurance cut as if they're by a hydrant. Most insurance companies do give a cut for it, but if they don't, we're going to be doing some advertisement through Brianna to let our residents know that they should be shopping around if they don't get that cut.
Yeah, no, that's more than fair. Any questions or comments to the Deputy Chief? Yes, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Deputy Chief, first of all, congratulations, and thank you very much to everybody that participated in this to make this happen.
Thank you.
On the certificate, just what's the sevens that are over here in the brackets?
Basically, it's a rating. So basically, it's our flow. In the end, we ended up with 625 gallons a minute flow. You would think that it should actually be maybe a 6, but for some reason, they always seem to rate it up to the next higher rating of 7.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anything further from council? Certainly, Deputy Chief, take our congratulations. I was out and watched a couple of practices. It's not easy, and they're slugging and they're moving, and it's such a perk for the department, but a perk for the residents as well. And I'm glad that you're going to advertise the fact that they can get a discount, and that it's not just for naught, but it's also really good training for firefighters. And please take council's thanks back for all that they've done.
I will. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Oh, sorry, Deputy, whatever your name is.
Sorry, thank you through your worship. Sorry, just a quick question. Where did you get the water from? Like, did you do it from different various, like some ponds that you have and some sewer?
We have to use a rural water source. In this case, we used at the Selby Quarry, the yard there. There's a quarry in there, and that's where we brought our water from. Around the municipality, we have certain holding tanks placed in certain spots, and some of the quarries around us, Road 1 also, we have some heads put in the ground, so we're able to draft straight from them, from the quarries.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Council, you have a recommendation to receive for information, please. Councillor Richardson, Councillor Norrie, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried.
I was going to offer the suggestion that we should actually extend a letter back to our department, giving credit to all those who participated and the chiefs who led it and all the rest of it, that it was a job well done by all, and we wouldn't have gotten it without their dedication and
That's
hard
right.
work.
No, you want to make that by way of motion as well?
Or add it to the original motion, but
Can
if
we
we've
add that to
already
the
passed
original motion? Yeah, okay, no, good suggestion, thank you so much. Okay, we are going to take just a 10-minute recess if we could, for a bit of a stretch, if we could. Thanks very much. He is tonight. Okay?
It's been a long day.
Yep, we're back live again, thank you. 10.8, Community and Corporate Services, sale of 37 Dundas Street West to Patel, and I'm going to murder this last name, sorry, the holding company. Did you wish to speak to this, Mr. Zetterberg? No. So council received for information the Community and Corporate Services staff report regarding the sale of 37 Dundas Street West, and further that council hereby confirms the following regarding the former library building located at 37 Dundas Street West through an agreement of purchase and sale through Rogers and Trainer Commercial Real Estate as approved by council. The purchase price for the building and the land is $411,000. The closing date is October the 19th, 2020. Purchaser's name is the holding company of Brampton, Ontario. And further that during the 2021 budget process, council directs staff regarding the disposition of the residue of the sale from 37 Dundas Street West and Millhouse Yards subdivision, former Heritage Park subdivision. Council's wishes or discussion. Deputy Mayor Kaiser.
I'll just make an initial comment that very pleased with the process. We adopted a new process. We followed it through. It went so successfully that we were well above the original valuation of the property. I'm just very pleased with the process, and I think it went off without a hitch. And yeah, so I would make the staff recommendation on that motion, please.
Okay, seconder, Councillor, yeah, okay. Richardson will second the motion. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Richardson.
I'm going to echo the comments of the deputy mayor. I thought this process was seamless. I thought it was very effective. This was the tail end, I guess, is the best way to explain, of a pilot project that we instituted, which started, I may be corrected, but probably March or April of 2019. It's taken some time, but that's what happens in today's world. Will we be expecting, and I guess I'd have to direct this maybe towards Ray, but will we be expecting a follow-up report with respect to the success of this pilot project? And will we be looking at trying to establish policy based on this pilot project? Because I think this was very effective. Is it prudent that we start heading in that direction now, even though we know that there is a review being conducted with respect to the properties? Would it be prudent to start heading in this direction now so that when the report is provided to us by the review team, KPMG, they'll be able to use the information that we've put in the report, and if so, they can tweak that information. Would that be prudent to do that now?
So, through the mayor, obviously with the, that the report that was supposed to come to revise all our policies was based on the success of this pilot, and the pilot has taken much longer, as the councillor indicated. So yes, it is the intention to use this as the information to develop the policy moving forward. Some of that work had been done, and some of that work has obviously been on hold. Currently, until the completion of the report by KPMG that just received approval tonight, there remains a moratorium on any sales. So as far as the sales go, you know, there is no activity until we get a final report before council for approval or the moratorium is lifted at council's wishes. But having said that, the analysis from this and these properties will certainly be before KPMG as part of what they're going to take a look at. I think that the staff input and anything in draft on the positives and negatives will come out both in the draft report that the staff work on, but also in any questions that KPMG may have based on those sales, and as part of that discussion that's going to come forward from their independent review. So the short answer is yes, this is going to be the blueprint for moving forward. There may be things that KPMG have from a best practice perspective that can supplement this type of approach. But I think that staff is relatively pleased with how, other than the timing, how the pilot project has ended. And I think that certainly council has seen a difference in approach since we went this way. And obviously moving from an older system of the land sales to this approach is certainly appears to be a move in a good direction. But we certainly as staff don't want to predetermine anything that KPMG may want to bring forward in their professional opinion either. So that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I guess what I would be looking at is I kind of want to hit the road running. At least in my world, I would like to have something in place because if we just put this on hold until KPMG is finished, that puts us into 2021, and then we have to create policy after that, which is going to put us, I'm going to guess, my best guesstimate is probably into the middle of 2021. I just feel that this was a very successful pilot project. We can build on this, and I just don't want to slow it down any, I guess is my my suggestion anyways. I'm sure that once they're done their review, I'm sure they're going to look at the pilot project. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind, and I can't help but think that they're going to come to the conclusion that we're heading in the right direction. I just would like to not delay the process any longer, if at all, if it's prudent and if it's possible.
Certainly.
I think it's certainly very possible. Staff have certainly, making notes of the process as they go and making notes of the steps. So I think that as KPMG develops at least phase one and determines, the properties that they feel are appropriate, we'll have pulled out the appropriate bylaws or policies that related to those particular sales so that they can bring those forward. And I think we can certainly look at what they find after phase one. So not waiting till the end of phase three, but after phase one, and they determine which properties are really the ones they either feel there's abnormal or they want to take a look at in deeper. Once we recognize those, then I think we can, as they go into phase two, we can be walking in step with working forward with that. So I don't think it has to be waiting till the end of phase three, like you said. I think that there's work that can do. Obviously, there's a lot of staff time or some staff time going to be involved in pulling out for phase one. But once we're beyond that, I think we can kind of walk in lockstep with what they're doing without trying to predetermine their approach to council.
Yep, great, thank you.
Okay.
Councillor McCormack?
Your worship, it seems to me that at this point, looking at the sale of the old library and Heritage Park and having KPMG on board to do the study, and I have the impression that we've been approached possibly to see if we had some land for sale, and it was unfortunate that we weren't able to act on it. So could we entertain lifting the moratorium earlier than the completion of the report from KPMG?
Certainly.
Madam Mayor, to just respond to that without sticking my neck too far off the edge of the table here. I believe that basically in what you've said as far as, or what we were saying earlier, is trying to work in lockstep with them after the identification of properties in phase one. I think once KPMG takes a look at those property files and has an understanding for their report at the end of phase one of their three-phase approach as to what properties they may want to look at, it may be appropriate for them to have, or in council's question, to have an interim, that question brought back up at the end of phase one, simply because they may say the properties we've identified are of a certain age or were related to a certain approach, and you seem to be having a new approach, or so it could be that prior to the start of phase two, at the end of phase one, that might be a very appropriate thing. What I don't want to do at this particular point, because you put this process in place, is put staff in a position where they need to second guess themselves, if that makes any sense. I would prefer that they were somewhat at the end of phase one, and we can work with them to get that phase one before council as soon as possible, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Kaiser?
I'm hearing and agreeing with what CAO Callery is saying, that we certainly don't want to predetermine the outcome of the reports, but at the same time, as much as we feel that this process was very successful and you know, above board and correct in every respect, let's let KPMG at least do phase one and get there first. And I also, if I could, I wanted to make one comment that we've heard a couple comments about the delay in the process of this. Of course, we have to remember that we were going to list this in March, and then COVID hit, lockdown happened, and huge delays occurred simply because of that. This could have been listed on March 17th, but as you know, lockdown happened on March 17th, and we have to remember that that delay was way beyond our control, and that this did happen in as timely a fashion as we could affect it to happen, so.
Madam Mayor, if I may just-
Sure.
Just for council's information, assuming that we can hit the ground running with KPMG and based on their decision tonight, based on council's decision tonight, notify them and get our pre-meeting set up very quickly. It does, I just looked very quickly at their schedule, and it does look like by the first council meeting in November that we may be aiming to have that first report back. So, you know, it is a fairly quick turnaround on that, so I think it might be appropriate to wait for that point.
Good.
Yeah. Councillor Pennell?
Through your worship, thank you. I just want to make a statement in regards to the sale. It was great sale. It was great working with Rogers and Trainer. What I just want to point out is that when we talk about how successful this was, not only are we talking about how much more over the asking price that we received, and the actual process of having an outside real estate company take care of all the paperwork and the dealings. I just want to let everyone know is that we are in a seller's market right now, and just be aware that these type of returns are not guaranteed. So from the list price to what the sale price was, won't always happen just because we're using a real estate company. So I just want to make sure that everybody in the public knows that, and everybody here knows that, because we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Personally, I'm enjoying the seller's market right now, but then there's also drawbacks from it as well. So I just wanted to let everybody know that this isn't, that dollar value isn't all of what we're calling a success. Thank you.
Where am I in this? We have a motion. I think too, and I just want to make the comment, and I think this is the place to make it, is this, of course, a lot of this was pushed because we had a lot of questions about the way things were being done. And I think that we haven't spoken to that at all tonight. And we still have some hurdles to get over in that, and I believe that this council will get over them with some proof written. And if there have been mistakes made, that they will come out, not even so much from us, but from KPMG. And if they're there, whether we can go back and correct it, I don't think so, but it may give the public a little better view of what we're doing. But I also think that it's the process of announcing these, and I've been, I think, not upset, but affected by the fact that as soon as it was sold on paper, we were criticized for not releasing it. And I really think that and the way that our bylaw reads, it says in closed session, and of course we come out and rise and report from closed session, whether someone sees that it's right or not, but rise from closed session to say that we have made an agreement. A deal isn't a deal until the money's in the bank. A deal isn't a deal to me until it's closed. So I just want to bring that point forward, which I'm sure that there'll be comments on tomorrow. But the process of listing it, selling it, telling people what's done with their tax dollars. I think all of that needs to be fixed. And I think that going through, although I originally wasn't in favor of spending all this money, even though I kind of pushed for the study, I think that maybe we're on the right trail to bring absolutely everything out, and it will. Deputy Mayor Kaiser.
On that note, I would like to ask Councillor Pennell a question. In his role as a professional real estate agent, as it comes to information we can and can't share, we know that there were 9 offers. We know what the successful offer was and who it was from, but we can't speak beyond that. And I know that there are rules and regulations within the real estate agent, and we had a real estate agent in this. Is it fair to ask Councillor Pennell to comment on that, just for clarification and understanding?
If Councillor Pennell is comfortable in answering that question, I see no reason why he shouldn't.
Thank you, through Mayor. Yeah, absolutely, I'll answer that, and I'll be proud to say too, as sitting as the 2020 president of the Kingston and Area Real Estate Association, I had great concerns of what the information could be released on this. During any multiple bid situation, we are only allowed to announce how many offers there were. We're not allowed to release any details of any offers at any time. And that is especially even after this has closed. The information that is in this report is borderline. If there was anything more that was included on this, it would be wrong. And I wouldn't be sitting here at my desk right now talking to you about it, because I would have to remove myself from the room in regards to that. So the information, to answer your question, Deputy Mayor, the information that is on this report, again, is good. It's borderline, but we can release the amount of offers only. We can't tell anybody what the second place offer was, or who they were, or any details, whether any conditions in the offers or anything like that. So hopefully that answers your question, but if it doesn't, then please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pennell. Okay, with that, we have a mover and a seconder. Yes. And during including the 2021 budget process, direct staff regarding, okay. Further comments or questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Community and Corporate Services, Integrity Commissioner Services. You have a recommendation here that Council receive for information the Community and Corporate Services Integrity Commission Service Report, and further that Council authorize Airden Burles to be reappointed for a 3-year term from January the 1st, 2021 to December the 31st, 2023, to provide Integrity Commissioner Services to the Town of Greater Napanee, and further that Council authorize the Mayor and the Clerk to execute the said agreement for the provision of Integrity Commissioner Services. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor Pennell. That is done in step with the 4 lower tiers and the county, so that we actually, I think they held their prices. Am I not right, Deputy Clerk? Madam Clerk. Jeez, I just demoted you. I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Bylaws. Is that where I am? 11.1, bylaw number 2020-0070, official plan amendment number 41, PLOPMA 2020-014, Millhouse Yards, first, second, and finally passed. Motion by Councillor Pennell, Councillor Norrie. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. 11.2, bylaw number 2020-0071, to amend zoning bylaw amendment 02-22 as amended, PLZACO 2020-015, Millhouse Yards, first and second and final.
This is the amended one with the.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
It's a schedule change, so it's
Okay.
as revised.
Okay, as revised, okay? First and second and finally passed. Councillor Johnson, Councillor Pennell, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you for catching me on that, Susan. Bylaw number 2020-0072 to amend bylaw 2015-0067 as amended to increase the dog license fee. First and second.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Have we discussed this schedule previously? I'm having a bit of a mental lapse if we've discussed the proposal.
Yes, and it's just to increase the dog license fee from $15 to $20.
Okay.
Do I have a mover and a seconder? No. Counselor Pennell, Counselor Norrie, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Bylaw number 2020-0073 to amend zoning bylaw number 02-22 as amended for 1831 County Road 41. First and second reading, finally passed. Deputy Mayor Kaiser, Counselor Richardson, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. 11.5, bylaw number 2020-0074 to amend zoning bylaw 02-22 as amended, part lots 1516, concession 1, Richmond. First and second reading. Councillor McCormack, Councillor Richardson, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Bylaw number 2020-0075 to assume Cherrywood Parkway, Stakos Court, and Briarwood Crescent in registered plan 29M-47 for public use. Deputy Mayor Kaiser, Councillor Pennell, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Bylaw number 2020-0076 to assume Beverly Street and Canvers Way in registered plan 29M-6 for public use. First and second and finally passed. Councillor Norrie, Councillor Pennell, all in favor of that motion. Motion is carried. Any new business? Any notice of motion? Yep, Councillor Richardson?
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to do a notice to motion.
Sorry, notice of motion is what I meant, sorry.
Yes, yep, I knew what you meant, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
With respect to the state of emergency, I would like to have a discussion with respect to the state of emergency at our next meeting. I don't want to install fear. I don't want to install misinformation within the people around this table or the...
Councillor Richardson, you can't speak to your notice of motion. You just have to put it forward in words.
Okay, I will put it forward that we remove the state of emergency, and I will comment further. I just don't want to disrupt anybody any more than we already have.
Okay, so to come up at our next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, and if you could put that in writing for the clerk so she has it the way that you want it, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any statements by members? Any further notices of motion? Any statements by members? I need a motion then to go into closed session, to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act in order to discuss personnel matters about identifiable individuals and to accept, am I right, the minutes from the last session, which would have been October 13th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kaiser, seconded by Councillor Pennell. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, coming out of closed session, I need a motion to rise and report. Deputy Mayor Kaiser, Councillor Norrie. Within closed session, we received and approved the minutes of the closed session of council, October the 13th, and council provided staff with direction dealings with an identifiable individual. So now I need to go to the confirmation of proceedings of council, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Greater Napanee at its meeting held on Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. First and second reading. Deputy Mayor Kaiser, Councillor Richardson, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor McCormack, everybody. Councillor Johnson, all in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, staff and council.
I'm going to let somebody else handle this. 5 hands, folks.
Ray, I use a consent agenda.